just get started, I got a couple questions before we turn it over to everybody else. How do they tell you if you made all pro or second team? How does that work?
The way I remember it back then, I just think I found out from either Derek Boyko or who was our
PR.
like
Yeah.
our PR guy.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, it wasn't
Okay.
really, you didn't get you didn't get like a certificate or anything sent to you. So I was kind of like, oh, I mean, that's cool and everything, but I'm like, dang,
Yeah.
like no bonus, no nothing. But no, it was cool. It was a great honor. I was really appreciative
Cool.
of it. And yeah, it
Very
was it
cool.
was good.
All right. I was thinking, actually, when I seen the announcement that you was going to be on, I thought of this question right away. What do you think is the difference between when you were playing safety and the adjustment that you would have to make now?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I mean, just defensive players in general have so much more to worry about. As a safety, not only is the game changed to the point where your physicality and you being able to impose fear on opposing players has kind of been minimized so far that there's almost no fear for opposing receivers or tight ends to really cross the middle or attack the middle of the field. And so it's been I'm sure it's very difficult for those guys. And gladly the NFL hasn't quite adapted the same rules as college. But if you look at college football, man, it's tough, man. Those guys, it's a bang bang play a lot of times. And the unfortunate part is you can have and they changed it a little bit last year, but you can have a bang bang play and get kicked out of the rest of the game, which is I think insane. And so they changed the rules a little bit. I think it's coming back to closer to normal than it was before, but it's got to be extremely difficult. I often say, all the time, like I myself, Brian Dawkins, and many of the safeties of our day would be definitely kicked out of the league by now by the way that they're playing.
But I wanted to see if mentally, if you thought maybe like not just Nate Minsley, like covering, because covering is
Yeah.
more important now.
Yeah, so I can expand on that as well. I mean, that really has changed the game as well. I always look at Jeremy Shockey. I don't know if you guys remember Jeremy Shockey, but
Oh
he was
yeah.
kind of like the original in our era, like the original version um of that Travis Kelsey type mold where you got a big, tall, athletic guy that can, run and separate and get down the middle of the field. And so he was kind of the first that we'd had to deal with. So I feel like passing game wise, I would be fine adjusting to it. Um, yeah, but I mean, the game is spread now. I mean, it's very difficult. You definitely have to and I always had pretty good footwork and I could cover pretty well. So I think I would be fine. But the big safeties, the if you will, Michael Lewis, and I don't want to talk bad about Michael Lewis. He was a great athlete, but he's the type of player that probably would have gotten attacked in the passing game a lot more.
One question I want to follow up because we asked Corey Clement this. Jeff and I did a live event with Corey, who was an undrafted free agent, and when I asked him this question about how did you like your mentality, when did you know you made the team, and what was your mentality coming to training camp? He said he never looked at the depth chart.
It was really weird, and I didn't know how the whole process works. So towards the end of the draft, you start kind of getting calls from different coaches and different organizations. I remember the Buffalo Bills were one. I think the Chicago Bears were one. The Eagles were one. San Diego Chargers, I believe, was another team that was calling, the agent. And then I remember talking to Sean McDermott. So Sean McDermott at that time was kind of moving his way up. He was quality control and kind of moving into that safety assistant defensive back coach position. And talking to Sean, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna try to get you with these couple of last picks, and if not, we want to bring you the opportunity to." Come as a rookie free agent. And I just remember being so like, I was like, I'm trying to get drafted. Like, I was like, that sounds good and I appreciate it, but I really would really want to hear my name called. And so the draft goes, I don't get my name called. And um I remember my agent at the time, he said, "Hey, listen, there's three opportunities." He's like the Eagles, the Bills, and I think another team, I forget which team it was that finally offered
Mhm.
a contract to sign. And my agent, and he was great. He said, you can go here. They're giving you some good money. He's like, you can go here, but he's like, the Eagles, they have one. They drafted Michael Lewis the year before. They had Brian Dawkins. They drafted Norman Lejeune the same draft that I
Oh,
was in, and that was it. So he was like, the best opportunity to make the team would be with the Eagles because you have Dawkins, and then you have a second-year player that's going into his second year, and you probably have the best opportunity to make the team with the Eagles. And I said, okay. And so that was it. And I signed, and next day flew out to Philly, and the rest is history.
When you start to see OTAs, are you helping them at all with seeing things that they may not see as you start to work in the secondary to see if there's if they've improved from last year, or is you leave that strictly to the coaches?
And that's a great question. I would look at it as what type of locker room you have. If you have, and as a player, a lot of times if a player is willing to, first of all, if they have talent, and you see the potential in the player as a teammate or a coach, you always start there. And if they have it, if they have the work ethic, right, you got to show that you want to be there. You got to show that you want to put in the work. And then once you get to that point, you can be kind of brought along um, by the team, by your teammates, or by your coaches.
Second question is, the one thing we had last year was one great tackling and great foreign tackling, especially Cooper. With you being a high school coach, we had that great tackling from Bond and from Cooper. What are you seeing in high school? Is it the message starting to get through?
I would say there was a time period. So the kind of transition from, the big hitting style and throw your shoulder into a guy, try to blow him up, that went away. And then especially at the lower levels in high school and lower than that, there was this big push towards the rugby tackling, the head behind type of deal. And I was never a big fan of it. I know Chip Kelly, when he was with the Eagles, they were big on using that rugby style tackle, and I think there's a place for it. But what we're seeing now, especially at the high school level now, is it's kind of a mixture between the two. Like the way I coach at my high school, the way I coach tackling, we don't say get your head across anything, right? Because that you got to take the head out of everything, right? So we focus everything on the shoulder.
Yeah, and Adam kind of touched on this, how you kind of had a similar path to the NFL as Reed, undrafted free agents, making it into the league. But, with him being a contract year, can you kind of provide some insight, you think, of how he may be feeling as an undrafted free agent? Is that something that they may use like as far as like the negotiations tactics or stuff like that? Or
Yeah, no, he is an undrafted free agent, but he's in a very, very good position. And opposite of where I was in a position where going into that contract year, even though I had played a lot on special teams and a little bit, kind of spot situations here and there in the goal line, he has way more film and way more. Um, he's had interceptions. Like he has a lot of good positive film on himself that is enough for another team to make an offer and kind of drive up the price, that whole type of deal. So he's in a very, very, very good spot for himself, and he's earned that. He's put himself in that position by his play, and he might get a little frustrated, if the offer let's say the offer is lower than he's expecting, he could get frustrated, but he's definitely put himself in the right spot.
so Q, good question there, Ollie. When you signed your big deal, it was, I mean, I think you had to be like top three safety in money when you signed a big deal with the Rams, something like that. It was
Yeah,
huge.
I was probably like top for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, okay, hey,
Yeah,
but
I'll
it,
take
it
it though.
was it was huge. And a couple things here. Did the Eagles try to re-sign you before you signed with the Rams? And was Spags getting involved? Did he get on the phone? Hey, dude, you got to sign here. Like, how did that go down? That Rams deal?
Yeah, so that year it was really weird because remember it was the lockout year, so
Oh,
we weren't even sure if we were going to have a season. We were a couple days from camp starting open, and we were still locked out the whole off season. We were working out on our own, so it was just a really really weird thing. And then once the lockout ended, it was like everything went so fast. I mean, I remember Jason Shea, who was my agent at the time, by that time. I just remember as soon as all the agents were able to start negotiating, Jason just hit the phones and, talking to multiple teams. And I didn't really know what was going on. I just told Jason, listen, I would love to be back here, but I want to go, I want to get paid. I want to get, the best contract available. And yeah, I was just sitting around the phone all day. Jason called me one time kind of grumpy about something. I don't know how the conversation, I don't know who at team he was talking to. He wouldn't tell me. And then he's like, all right, I'm gonna call you right back. And so he called me back maybe an hour later, and he told me the deal, and he's like, we're going to St. Louis. And I was like, all right, let's go. And so in terms of the behind the scene
Yeah.
stuff, I don't really know as much about that. I put it in
Yeah.
Jason's hands, and I said,
Okay.
put me where I should be. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
that whole thing
Dan,
was weird.
What was your mindset when you knew it was trying to wind down and hang up with the old cleats? And is it a common thing in the NFL? Everybody has kind of their own decision point. Or is it like, hey, you can't do it anymore physically, you're out, or you're like, I don't want to do this anymore?
That was a great question.
Thank you.
And yeah, like everyone kind of has their own time. Everyone has their own that moment when they're like, okay, it's over. And for me, that was my last year. I was with the Carolina Panthers, and I had kind of missed all. I got released by the Rams that spring. I went through all of spring camp without anyone signing. Went through all the training camp without anyone signing. The Panthers had a starting safety that got hurt. And Sean called me, I was literally sitting, I think it was Memorial Day weekend. I was literally sitting on my couch having a beer, watching TV. And he's like, hey, you want to come out? And I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I came out, and I ended up starting I was on the couch on Saturday. The next Sunday, I was starting against the Seattle Seahawks for the
wow.
Panthers the next week. So it was nuts. And needless to say, I was cramping up, and I wasn't
Oh,
100%
geez.
ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went through that season. We went to the playoffs. It was great fun. It was I would say, a great experience towards the end of my career, because it was a young and up and coming team. A lot of young players, energetic. Ron Rivera was the head coach. It was awesome. And then so we get into the playoff game, and first half, one of the last plays of the first half, I get a Liz Frank fracture in my foot.
Oh,
Oh,
I remember going into the locker room, and I'm like, I think I could do it. So I remember they taped it up, and they put all this special stuff in my shoe. And I was like, all right, let me test it out. I went to backpedal, and when I went to backpedal, it just, all the pain shot up, and I was like, yeah, I
oh,
think I'm
man.
done. So, long story short, I think that was my moment. Because I was like, all right, I'm tired. At that point, I was like, I just want to go, spend some time with my family. And that year was an awesome year. And I think for me, it was a great way to go out. We didn't go out with a championship, but it was the most fun. I wouldn't say the most fun, but it was a lot of fun.
Where would you play Cooper? Where do you think he is best
That's a
fit
good one. Go ahead.
this defense?
That's a good one. Oh, that's a great question. Man, he's so dominant inside, and his presence alone, I think last year is the sole reason why they were so successful. When you have a corner that can cover man to man, that plays physical, has really good size, that can, blitz at times, that can make plays on the ball, his presence in that slot, it takes away so much of what teams are trying to do now. It used to be that teams would put, their most dangerous player at the X or outside, and try to take advantage of the ball down the field. And like we were saying about the game changing, a lot of teams started trying to put, like what you look at what Dallas does with CeeDee Lamb, right? They put their best receiver in the slot, or they try to match him up on linebackers and get him into those spaces. So I think I think Cooper playing inside just makes this defense dominant. I would keep him at slot, and I would figure it out on the outside with someone else.
What did you like to do during that time off? Like, did you get away, or did you just did you go to the facility, work out a lot, or how did you spend that time? And did you have a routine, or was it different each year?
In
No, I'm
between.
talking about from like OTAs until like when they end until you come back for training camp.
I love, so this time of year was always fun, because um you kind of had a job, and then you kind of not. Like, I loved OTAs. I loved going to the facility, watching film, and trying to get extra work and trying to get better. But it wasn't as intense as in season full day. So it kind of felt like you were just on your own time, just working and getting better. um and the coaches are in a much happier mood. You go up there and talk to the coaches, and it just was always, especially at the NovaCare Center, it was always and you just felt invited to just hang out around there. So it was a really cool place. I really do miss that time. I think being in the locker room and being part of the OTAs was probably one of the best times. of playing ball, because it's still ball and you still feel like it's a job, but it's more relaxed and more fun. And so yeah, definitely a lot of film study, a lot of taking care of your body. But then you get a lot of family time, right? You can go home and hang out with the family. You can go on vacations and all that stuff once the OTAs were over. So it was just a really fun time of year. So I'm hoping those guys are enjoying it and really relishing the moment, because when it goes away, you just kind of miss certain things that you never thought you would miss.